Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm here with another buddy fight video. So today I'm kind of going to be doing something a little different. It's going to be a brief thought and breakdown on what I think about the upcoming set Perfected Time Ruler or S-BT07. So S-BT07 or Perfected Time Ruler is coming out January 24th and has a lot of really interesting things going on. So first thing I'd like to talk about are the rebuddies. So the rebuddies I love. I love the idea and concept of rebuddies, not only because it helps bring new support back to old decks, but it revamps the buddy while keeping the same kind of flavor that it once originally had. So I like the majority of the rebuddies. Some of them are a lot weaker than others, is to put it lightly. So Asmodai and Tsuchikage I don't feel like are strong enough to help push their decks forward, but Zodiac is a very strong inclusion, and then obviously Dual Seeger and Burn Nova are also very, very powerful rebuddies. So I love the concept that they introduced of rebuddies, and I hope going forward that they do more rebuddies. Outside of that, we have the introduction to a new deck in the form of Phantom Thieves. So Phantom Thief Draco. And I like the concept and idea of Phantom Thief Draco, in which you basically kind of slowly steal your opponent's deck away to get magical treasures, and then you use the magical treasures for additional effects on a lot of your cards, and then you have a big finisher where you just throw all the magical treasures at your opponent's face for lots of damage. On top of which, just what the archetype does is very strong in the fact that it can gain Shadow Dive off of its item. It has a whole bunch of good defense spells, on top of it being Magic World, which already has a whole bunch of good draw and defense spells. I just love the theme and mechanics of Phantom Thieves, and I think going forward, Phantom Thieves is going to be a very strong deck, especially since we already know everything that's going to be coming out in the Climax booster. So I really like Phantom Thieves. I think they're a good, solid deck, and I think they're a really good contender. So what's not a really good contender is Blade Dancers. So Blade Dancers is getting support, and I don't particularly think it's good enough. So Blade Dancers is already kind of like a mediocre kind of deck. It focuses a lot on the item and having the item have defense and counterattack, so you can kind of mitigate damage just from the item's defense and then slowly pick off at your opponent's board. And Blade Dancers aren't bad. It's just I don't think that the support that they're getting in this set is good enough to push them to be an actually hardcore competitive deck. But what they are getting is very good for them. I just don't think it's very good enough. Then we have Electro Deities. So I like what they're trying to do with Electro Deities. I think it's very interesting. It's just I also don't think Electro Deities, the support that they're getting, is it's going to be relevant or not. So Electro Deities gets a new size 3, and its whole gimmick is to basically just try to take an extra turn. So that's a very strong effect. On top of it, it has very strong stats. But the only problem is Electro Deities is going to be nothing more than a Lost World Turbo deck. So the new cards that they're getting, some of them help that Lost World Turbo strat, and then some of them don't. So the ones that don't help that Lost World Turbo strat basically just won't see any play, and I think that's a crying shame, but that's just the state in which a lot of buddy fight decks are, where they have to be a Lost World Turbo deck in order to be relevant, and then their core mechanic is sidelined as a result. But I think Electro Deities, what they are getting, is very good. I just don't think it's good enough to be anything more than a Lost World Turbo deck. So that's my thought on Electro Deities. Ironically enough, we are getting one new Deity Dragon Ninja. I don't think it's going to push ninjas or Dragod like Katana World's Dragod alone, but it's interesting that a new card came out for him. Then we have Link Dragon Order. So Link Dragon Order, I think, is going to be basically in the same state it was before this. So it's getting a lot of good cards, don't get me wrong. It's just, I think the Toolbox Size 1 variant is still going to outweigh the Size 3 variant. Even though they are getting a really good Dragod, and the Dragod could see play, it's just I don't think the state that the game is currently in really would allow the Size 3 variant to shine as much as we all would like it to. So, but that's not saying that it's not a good card. It's a very good card. It's doing exactly what the deck wants. A lot of their new support is just doing exactly what the deck or the variants of the decks wants. It's just, I don't think competitively it's going to be powerful enough to push them forward. And as much as I love Link Dragon Order, I think that's a shame, but it's always nice seeing them get some new, really good support cards. And then we have Cross, or Astral Dragons. So Cross is getting a God form also, which is very powerful, and this one is better than Agito's God form by like leaps and bounds. So this Cross is very splashable in the fact that it's a size 2, so it could fit into a lot of different decks. On top of the fact that it's a Dragod, so you could play it with any and all flags except crossovers. But he's just very, very powerful at creating an even bigger board state, and in certain flags like Chaos, where you can have 2 monsters in the center because of Chaos territory, this just becomes an even more powerful card because you could easily fill its formation. Chaos allows basically for its size restriction to be ignored, and it's just a very powerful card. That being said, the rest of their support cards, outside of like 3 of them, I don't necessarily think it's going to push the deck past what it already has been doing. It's definitely giving it a big step up. It's just I don't think that step up is big enough to make it like tier 1 hyper competitive. Again, their new support cards that they're getting are very, very good. A couple of them are definitely easy auto includes in like the Astro Dragon deck, but I don't necessarily think it's going to push it to be tier 1 hyper competitive. And then we have Mystic Knights. So Mystic Knights is getting some support. Their support as of right now looks really good, and then we already know in the Climax booster, which I'll cover in another video, they're getting even more support, and their even more support is stronger than what they're getting currently in this set. But in this set, they're definitely getting a lot of good cards and good tools to help with their consistency problem. So before, they used to have a consistency problem, and now they're kind of just eliminating the consistency problem and like giving them really solid cards that would help push the deck forward. And I think after the Climax, it's going to be a really solid deck and an actual thought in people's heads that they have to be like, oh, I'm playing against Mystic Knights now. Whereas before, they're not really used to saying that because the deck just wasn't really a deck before. But now, with their new support, the deck is actually going to start to be able to shine. And with this first wave of support, it's definitely a good direction for the deck. And then we have Shadow Shades. So Shadow Shades, it's kind of like what Mystic Knights' support is, except it's not getting as much, and like it's just trying to fix the consistency issue. I don't think this is going to push Shadow Shades forward as like a tier 1 hyper competitive deck, but for the players who are playing Shadow Shades, these are really good support cards and good inclusions in the Shadow Shade deck. And then we have the big elephant in the room, Time Dragons. So Time Dragons, it has a starter deck that's coming out with like at the same time as this set, and it's getting like half of the set support is basically dedicated to Time Dragons, and then we also know what the Climax Booster's going to be holding. But just specifically looking at this set alone, Time Dragons is looking to be very, very strong and very, very competitive. So Time Dragons already in Japan has shown that it has a lot of different flexible options. It's a very powerful and consistent like mid-range to control deck, and it looks to be poised to be in a very good spot, especially knowing that they are getting even further and stronger support in the Climax Booster. But again, just looking at this set alone, it's putting Time Dragons on the map tier 1 basically day 1. So Time Dragons is definitely the standout of this booster box, and even though it's coming with a whole bunch of other good support for other decks, this is the primary like focus of the set, is to be introducing Time Dragons, and it's introducing them with a bang. So they're coming out of the gates very strong. Their two main gimmicks are stopping the opponent's time, so that way they can't respond with any abilities. And the other key gimmick is putting cards to the bottom of the owner's library or deck. So just those two abilities alone are very strong separately, but the fact that Time Dragons puts them together can bypass a lot of current abilities in the game. And that's what's really going to be pushing them to be very, very strong, on top of the fact that they have a lot of draw power and consistency and just a whole bunch of different good utility cards, because Bushy designed them to basically be catching up with everything else, and then on top of catching up, they have to be competitive. So Time Dragons is definitely going to be very strong. I don't necessarily think Time Dragons is going to be tier 0 out of the gates. I think it's going to be a solid tier 1 option. As of this set, they aren't going to have exactly all of the cards that they need in order to be tier 0. In the Climax Booster, it's arguable if that's even going to be like the tier 0 deck or not, but I'll get to that in a different video when I cover the Climax Booster. But I wanted to start off by looking at just S-BT07 as a whole, and not really go card by card, but go archetype by archetype and give you my general thoughts. And I think the set is a very strong set. It's doing a lot of powerful things for a lot of different decks. Some of it is like creating new decks. Some of it is giving support to older decks, and either direction it's going in a very strong, positive direction. So that's my thoughts on what I think Perfected Time Rules is doing. And again, I'll cover the Climax Booster in another set, because they are doing a lot of crazy things in the Climax Booster, but that's not coming out for another month. So overall, again, I think it's a very powerful set. It's doing a lot of new things, which I am enjoying, and it's doing a lot of support, which I always think is good. So overall, I'd probably rate this set probably about an 8 or 9 out of 10 if I had to like give it a scale, just because it's doing a lot of different good things that I think are a positive direction for the game, mostly in the form of rebuddies and support for our current and existing decks. I think those are very important, and it's only really introducing one new deck, and it's giving enough tools for other decks to consider like making a brand new type of deck that hasn't been seen before. But that's why I think it's about an 8 or 9 out of 10. It's a very good looking set. So thank you for watching. I hope you like and subscribe for more Buddy Fight content, and I will see you in the next video.